Hi, this is
James.
and I'm Avia. Welcome to Operation Reconciliation. The purpose of this channel is to connect and restore the African and the African diaspora by providing enlightenment of their true day-to-day experiences through communication and travel while destroying centuries of false narratives for such a time as this. Now, James and I have been traveling to Africa since the early 2000s. We were much younger then.
Yes.
Less gray. No locks. But, you know, it was a life-changing time for us. It was a whole journey, you know, getting to Africa, getting to a place where we even wanted to go to Africa.
Yes.
We weren't raised around people, you know, who were, I would say, African minded or interested in, you know,
Yes.
those things. In fact, we came from a probably typical of an African American experience, where we were shown, you know, all of these fearful things, you know, about Africa, and so that's the mindset that we had. Would you say?
Yes. I mean, plus coming from being born and raised in the projects, we didn't never. We wasn't told about Africa. We wasn't exposed to Africa like other people have been, and you know, we just never thought that it was on our radar to go until that one day we was finally exposed to it. And you know, just that experience of
well, for me, it has started developing in my heart.
but true, yes.
Yeah, through, you know, ministry wise, and I began to get a desire to go to Africa, not knowing how, you know, that would happen, because in my mind that was a tall order, you know. So I never knew at the, you know, years prior to us going, my heart began to develop and to change. And so
Yeah, it came around. An opportunity came around, and on my end, it was a misunderstanding. I didn't know that. We're gonna put it like this. I thought it cost like $300 to go to Africa with the group that we was going with.
seriously,
Because I misheard something, and we had went on another trip with a certain group before, and it was pretty reasonable. I think we paid like $300, and I think that I got it mixed up. It was a $300 deposit, not a $300 total trip. So that kind of, when we got to the meeting and they was talking about the fees, so I'm thinking, oh, yeah, we can do $300. That ain't no problem. We got that. And we got to the meeting. We sat in the meeting, and you know, we're quiet and listening, and they started talking about the fee. I'm like, okay, yeah, the fee is $300 in my mind. But then they came around and said, yeah, you know, you gotta have $2,000, but $2,500 by this day. And I'm like, what you mean $2,500 by this day? I'm like, my eyes started getting, you know, I started getting a little sunken down in the chair. But, and then they said, okay, you gotta have the rest of the money by this time. And it kind of shook my world. I knew I wanted to go, but we couldn't afford that. And that was like, just say $3,500 each.
yeah.
And you know, we didn't have that in our account. We didn't have $300 in our account. we just knew we could raise $300. And so that was my first experience, you know, just
With the planning part.
with a planning part of it. It kind of, you know, I kind of wanted to back out, which I did. So we were like, you know what, maybe that's not for us right now. And it came a time that we didn't go that year. But then that group that went that year, one of the ladies came back and they was all excited. And she was like, she felt us because we was like we was going to a Caucasian church at the time. First time ever going to a Caucasian church.
We were the only
black couple, black family there.
Yeah.
And
they didn't realize it. We were.
Yeah.
We realized it.
But so it came about to where when they came back, they were all excited. And then the head pastor's wife came to us and saying, y'all gotta go. Because she was so excited about it. I'm like, okay, I want to go, but I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, $3,500 each. I'm like,
That's $7,000.
Yes, and I'm like,
we got babies to feed.
Exactly, we had a young family.
Yeah.
But long story short, God made a way. So.
Yeah. So on top of that, getting all the supplies, and because we were planning on going to what they call the bush, and that's the rural areas, and we were going to Tanzania at that time, and so we had to gather all our supplies and all that, so that was an additional cost.
Oh yeah.
But mentally,
the shots too.
Yeah, shots
we
too.
forgot about the shots.
We had to get all the shots.
Yeah, and that time they would have required a lot of shots.
Yeah, and then the team that we were going with, highly suggested certain shots and all that too. Basically, every shot that the CDC would recommend. So we did all of that, but the mental part was I honestly had the mindset, we're going to go help the Africans. They need our help, poor Africans, because of what I was shown. I was shown the starving babies with the big bellies and, in the dusty fields and, scrapping for leftovers, of, we didn't know what it was that they were eating. Yes. It didn't look appealing to us, and so we have this mindset, just the mindset that's been driven in us through what we've been shown, through the years. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you can relate to what I'm talking about, specifically the African American, or Jamaican, Haitian, whatever, wherever you are, wherever you landed from that trip, that unwanted trip of your ancestors.
And even some of the points of, we went with a Caucasian group and they was telling us what the do's and don'ts. And, we had a lot of don'ts.
Oh, yeah.
And, you never been before, and it's like, okay, you hear everything they tell you, and it's like, do I want to go? I know in our hearts we wanted to go, and we were going, but it was like, man, you got to watch out for this. You can't do this. You can't do that. Can't do this. Can't do that. Like, well, what can we do?
Yeah.
And it get to, like I said, first time going, you don't know what to expect,
and you don't know any better.
And you don't know any better. Yeah. True. And it's you just go and you follow their lead, basically. And then as we would continue to follow their lead, it came to a point where like, really, I don't see what you see.
Yeah.
Because it was all people, and I didn't want to. There were certain things like we ate amongst ourselves, and they ate amongst themselves. And I'm like, no, I want to eat with them. I want to fellowship with them.
Yeah.
Not just have them as our help, but it's just like I said, the do's and the don'ts. So, and you just gotta pick the meat from the bone. Like I said, we was with them.
Sometimes you have to endure the undesired to get to that place where you can take that meat and make a meal out of it. Picking the meat from the bone. Sometimes you have to endure those things that you would rather maybe, speak up on, or, or just kind of bring to light. Sometimes you just have to let that be and gather what you're there to gather. Gather the sticks, gather the stones for what you're getting ready to build.
Yes.
So.
What about the plane ride? It was your first plane
ride. Yes. That was my very first plane ride. Going to Africa, and we had like a total of 12 flights.
Yeah.
6 going and 6 back. And in that, it was just a whole, I was having an experience in an experience.
Yeah.
So that first trip to Africa was, like I said, just totally life-changing for us. It sparked something in us that caused us to continue from that point on to even now. So we just kind of been looking back over the years and was like, man, why don't we just tell some of this stuff? Why don't we just put it out there? Because we've seen so much in our travels. We've seen so much that people don't openly say,
Yes.
And quite frankly, they may not want us to say, but I will say it, and he will say it, and so as we, produce more videos, you'll get to see, all of the different things. We're going to, show you the things we've seen, the pictures. We're going to talk more about our experiences, and we will also have others, Africans and the diaspora also, let some of them tell their experiences.
Yes.
And so for us, getting there, putting our feet on the ground once we got to Africa was amazing.
Yes.
So on that trip, it was three African Americans. Actually, no, was it? No, we were only 2 on that trip. I'm thinking about the other trip.
Yeah.
They're starting to run together. Yeah, so that trip, so it was like when we put our feet on the ground, it was that whole coming home feeling. We cried. It was like, I can't believe I'm here.
Yes.
It was like, how did this even happen? It was just a whole experience,
Yes. It was like, for me, it was like the little boy growing up in Pritchard, Alabama, all the way to Tanzania, Africa experience. It was like, how did I get here? And it was, like I said, we cried. We consoled each other because it was life changing.
Yeah, it was spiritual.
Yes.
It was very spiritual. It's like having that whole path of returning home, especially when you've been gone against your will, when you've been gone and having to stay in a place you're not comfortable in. And so it was absolutely amazing. Like I tell you, spiritual, it was surreal, it was all kinds of things. And that whole trip was so enlightening. And so as I said, when we came back, we had the whole interviews and and everything. And so I forget what the exact question was, but I know that my response was, I realized that we needed the African more than they needed us. When it came to the spiritual realm, because when it came to the spiritual things, because I literally saw people who had the mindset that they were going to go help these poor, godless Africans, fearful of the things that was happening and had no idea in how to deal with the spiritual things that were going on, that we saw and that we experienced. And I'm like, how are you going to come over here and help them? And you don't even know, first of all, you don't even know how to deal with this in your own country. you know, and it was kind of embarrassing, you know, as a Christian, you know, like what the world, you know, like my kids said, what the mess, you know, and it's like it was just really eye opening, not just about, you know, learning Africa and knowing Africa, but it was also eye opening about the people that we were with. And so we're very observant, you know, and so we sat back and observed a lot of things. And but one thing that was really, really special to us, Mama Margaret.
Oh yes.
Oh my gosh, and Grace. Oh
yes.
So we were actually on a medical mission
trip. Yeah.
Yeah, and so there were on the Africa team there was a young lady named Grace. She hung with us a lot.
Yeah.
And she was very. She was a whole lot different than I had in my head. She was very funny. She was very silly. You know, but at the same time, she seemed like a very wise young lady.
Oh yes.
And so, and then Mama Margaret, she was one of the nurses, and she, you know, very wise. We talked, we shed tears, we talked about our problems, the things we've gone through, and, you know, we were on a bus together, and so we had time to do that, and, you know.
Well, they made us feel at home.
They really
They made us feel like we was at home.
They picked us out.
Yes.
They picked us out of all of the group, and you know, Mama Margaret set up a whole thing in her tent. You know, where she invited us to her tent, and she set up chai, and that was our first time having chai.
Yes.
And she had gifts for us. And she had prepared names for us. And so in that tent, she had her own naming ceremony. And we had no idea what she was doing. She just invited us to her tent. And so she did the whole thing of presenting James with the chair first for him to sit down. And then I come in, and she went through the whole ceremony, and she presented us. She had already picked out names, given us the meanings. Gave us gifts and everything. That in itself, and nobody knew what was going on.
Yes.
Nobody had a clue, and they probably don't now until if they watch this video. But we just had this whole extra experience, you know, that the rest of the group wasn't having, and we so appreciated it.
Yes.
You know, it's so hard, and this is what you will probably hear me say repeatedly, for the Africans to understand how hard it is for us, you know, to feel like that the African actually owns us. You know, and I mean that in a way where this is my husband, and I say he's my husband. I don't say I don't know that man. You know, and I mean that in, maybe what's a better word for that? You know, that they know where we came from. We know that they know that we are a part of them, and that they accept us.
Yes.
You know, and a lot of times we can have that feeling of a man without a country.
Exactly. Like you feeling unwanted.
Yeah.
Even sometimes, you know, like everybody on a country that don't understand where we come from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you know, and some of them made fun of us.
Yeah.
And some of them didn't. But we gravitated to the ones that received us. Mm-hmm. And like I said, we many times we were out and about, and man, people say, "You were home. You were home.
Yeah.
We'll give you land. We'll give you land. You come home.
We buy you land, you stay. This is your home."
And it felt good.
It did.
To be wanted.
Yeah.
And that was one of the main things that really made me continue to want to go back to Africa.
Yes.
Because it's a country where they want you to come back. They want you to experience. A country where they want you to come and experience their
country
culture.
that we went to.
Yeah.
Tanzania. Yeah.
But it was eye opening, and it was heartwarming to where somebody finally want us.
Yes.
they finally want us. And it like I said, the ceremony she helped us, man, I mean, I think we left out in tears.
Yeah.
We talk about that to this day, and it's, we still have the names. I think it's wrapped up in
I think that was the icing on the cake.
Yeah, yes.
That was like the cherry on top of the whole trip, you know, that she would just do this, just take it upon herself to do this whole thing. And I wonder, why did she feel the need to do that? And now that I'm talking about it, that is what, you know, that's what comes to my mind now. Like, why did she do that? Why did she take that upon herself? She didn't tell us what she was doing. Mm-hmm. She didn't do any of that. She just said, I want you to come to my tent at a certain time. And I'm wondering, why did she do that? Mm-hmm. You know, is it that she picked up in the spirit realm? You know, this needed to be done. Mm-hmm. You know, was she listening? You know, did she have a mind to hear? You know, in the spirit realm, she had a mind to hear, but was it somebody speaking on our behalf to her? You know, so I would say, I think our first trip, yeah, that was you got anything else?
That was number one.
Yeah, that was our first trip. So stay tuned for a little bit. We'll have some of those, you know, pictures coming up, and you know, and you can see some of that when, again, there was less gray, no locks, relaxed. So again, stay tuned. Take this journey with us.
Hit the like button, and subscribe.
And with that, we're out.